super excited to get to chat with Katie today. She's a young woman who is making a name for herself, not only as a barrel racer and in the stock contractor world, but also in the bucking bull world. So, Katie, if you would not mind telling us a little bit about yourself to get things kicked off today.
Well, first off, thank you so much for having me. I absolutely enjoy this kind of stuff. So I grew up in southern Oklahoma. I've always been around rodeo, in a rodeo family. I went to college on a rodeo scholarship, and I've to be honest, I've done this my whole life, but I don't know much else. After college, I moved back home, back to southern Oklahoma, and decided I was going to rodeo. That was, I was going to run barrels. That was the direction I wanted to go. I thought I had some nice horses. And, it's kind of funny how when you think you have things planned out, things take a turn and you're like, oh, okay, I'm going to do this then, I guess. So I went to an event with my grandpa and my little brother to a bucking bull fraternity, and I immediately fell in love with it. I had always been around it, but never been, just 100% involved. And that was in 2018, and I can probably count on one hand how many barrel races or rodeos I've been to since then. The bucking bull world is something that I truly love and that I'm, excited about and used to. Running barrels is all that mattered, and now I've kind of picked the bulls over the barrel horses.
It's funny how that happens, right? When you find
Definitely
something loved and something else takes wayside.
For sure.
Well, and so for you, you're kind of titled under, I know you probably wear many hats, but kind of a stock contractor is kind of the general term used for somebody who kind of does what you do. And for somebody who maybe is listening that may have no idea what that means, could you maybe explain that a little bit?
Yeah, so being a stock contractor, we own all the bucking bulls. So we take bulls to the PBRs. We take some to fraternities, which is the younger bulls. If anybody had listened to your podcast with Courtney, she's got a bucking bull with us. We provide the stock for these rodeos or these events is really what we do. We deal in a lot more younger bulls. We do raise everything. So that's another really neat thing that we get to see these calves be born at the house and then, go on through the whole ranks of the ABBI, the American Bucking Bull, and go through their ranks. And then, obviously the end goal is to have them at the PBR.
Right. Okay. And what kind of goes into bucking bulls as far as obviously their calves, and then what do you kind of look for when you're trying to pick one and get one ready type of situation?
So we're actually bucking them all this week. We, as weanlings, we keep them up and we handle them. I know a lot of people think that bucking bulls are mean, wild. If anybody looks at my social media, there's pictures of me, sitting on them and loving on them. There's one of me brushing and fly spraying. So we really, these bulls that we haul, they act more like horses really than bulls, but we handle them their whole life. So as yearlings, we start bucking them a little bit, and we just kind of ease them into it. And we buck them 3 or 4 times, and then you can kind of make a decision. Being in this business as long as we have, you kind of have an eye for it. There's little things that we look for in pedigree. I mean, and coming from a barrel racer background, it's a big deal to me. We kind of know, okay, we get along with these bloodlines better than these, or, this cow, she produces this kind of calf, and this bull produces this kind of calf, and, you really look through and think, okay, we're going to breed this one to hopefully get this kind of calf. Like Top Dollar, his first 2 or 3 trips, we seriously thought about sending him to the sale barn. But we saw something in him that we liked, and, now we look at him, and he's won a world title, and I think he's third in the fraternity standings right now. So definitely glad we kept him. But it's a process. We start hauling them lightly as yearlings, and then they really start going their 2, 3, and 4-year-old years.
So it's really kind of a combination of genetics and kind of, I guess, just their will to buck a little bit too, right?
Oh, definitely. And we have got it kind of broken down into, I think we have about 40 cows, and we've really broke it down to, we know those cows have produced something, or their moms have produced something. So we really try to keep only keep cows that we know are going to produce. We don't try to keep a cow just because I get attached. I'll be the first one to tell you. But if her calves aren't bucking, we have to get rid of them. They don't do us any good. So it's hard to say, oh, well, we're going to sell this cow, or we're going to keep this cow, because like I said, I get attached and I don't want to sell any of them.
Right.
At the end of the day, this is how we make a living. So you have to get rid of some to keep more. And the younger stuff, we try to kind of sell the older cows and keep some younger stuff and have newer genetics per se to keep the herd kind of growing. But there's a lot of people want big numbers, and we don't. We just want good cows and not a lot of them. And then that way, those same 25 or 30 cows, however many, they're going to hit every time versus having 100 and, maybe 20 hitting. So it's definitely a game, and it's not simple of just taking a cow and taking a bull and breeding it and hope it bucks. Like, there's a whole deal behind how we pick them and the whole process.
Right, and I'm sure, too, kind of as far as maintaining them, too, right? I'm sure there's a science that goes into all of that as well, not only from a nutritional side of things, but probably from a training side as well.
Oh, definitely. They laugh at me sometimes because, we get these bulls magna-waved, and we get them shock-waved, and we get them injected. They're taken care of. I mean, Woo-Paw that won the Classic last year, he eats before we ever think about eating everything. I mean, well, they all do, but, that bull, he's babied and he's taken care of. And, without them, I mean, we're not here. So we take care of them. I mean, they're family.
Exactly.
And there's a lot that goes into these as far as, just exercising or vet work. We have a great vet. And, it's one of those things that people sometimes don't realize what all goes into these bulls. Just to get one to the Classic Finals, which is the 4-year-olds that Woo-Paw won last year, just to get one there is a really big deal.
Right. And I think, even this was something I kind of just recently figured out just because I'm not super heavily involved in the rodeo side of kind of the industry, but I think maybe a misconception is when a bull is going to be a bucking bull, the first time it bucks, there's a rider, right, involved, and that's not the case. So could you maybe kind of talk us through a little bit about how that all kind of works as far as their sequence of how growth, I guess, and everything?
So like I said, we start bucking them as yearlings, and we have a little box, and it's called a dummy, and I think ours weighs about 8 pounds. And we have a remote control, and whenever you want it to come off, you click the button and it comes off. So if they do something really good, and it's more of a training tool, really. So if they do something that you like, you can click it off. And we use the dummy from their yearling year to their 2-year-old year. When they turn 3, we put a rider on them. It's kind of a little bit of a strategic kind of deal. We've got a set of 3-year-olds this year that 2 of them we put a rider on. The rest we're just trying to grow and get big to be able to handle the bull riders.
Right.
Some people, they don't like the 3-year-old deal at all, and they wait till they're older. We're kind of, half of them we put a rider on, half of them we're not going to. So it's one of those deals where we're just kind of playing the game, really. But as far as a rider, if we don't think they're ready, that's the good thing about this business. If we don't think they're ready, it's not like they have to go somewhere and get a rider. We can pick and choose where we want them to go and kind of play our game in a way. Right. And then to kind of the I guess you mentioned kind of comparing them to horses in a way, and I think that's the only comparable way I can kind of think about it as far as ownership and all that kind of stuff too. It's kind of like racehorses. That's like the first thing I think of as far as there's owners and then there's people that kind of take care of them. And I mean, that's not every case obviously, but for some of these. So how does that kind of work too? So, somebody like Courtney, she owns part of Top Dollar. And I mean, if somebody was to buy one, Courtney comes to the house. Her India Whiskey Design, she owns a bull with us. They come over and help us do stuff. But if somebody from wherever wanted to buy a bull, you're not required to do anything. If you want to show up to the event, we joke, you just show up to the event and get in the win picture. There's no real responsibility as far as you having to come take care of him or feed him. So my dad also has a bull with us, and he watches him on Facebook Live. I don't know that he's ever seen him buck other than one time in person. So he just watches on TV and calls and says, hey, good job, whatever. But as far as like being involved, you can be as involved or as not involved as you want to be in this business. And I think that's what's really cool. I love seeing these people get on social media and be able to tell people I got a bucking bull, because there's a lot of people that have no idea that you could even do that.
Right.
And it's such a cool industry. And then I've loved Courtney being involved, because she has told so many people about this industry and a lot of the misconceptions about it. I think that's such a neat deal as far as just getting what we do out there. And like I said, she doesn't flank Top Dollar. I don't even flank Top Dollar. We leave that to Laramie. But I have really got to watch the industry grow just from social media, and I love that. I think you have to have that in this day and time of, you have to show people that you can be involved, and you can, in Fort Worth at the event, the announcer said something to the effect of, you can live in an apartment in downtown Dallas and own a bucking bull. And so Courtney really played off of that, and we love that. Of, you can never have stepped foot on a ranch, whatever, and still be involved.
Yeah, and you mentioned, it's a business, obviously, and you're trying to make money at the end of the day. Otherwise, why be involved, right?
Yeah, right.
But it's interesting because it's really a unique investment opportunity, I think, too, like you said, for someone who maybe has no exposure to livestock, or they live in an apartment in Dallas where they can still kind of be involved and have that exposure.
Well, yeah, and I think that might be the coolest thing. And if you just look across the board in the fraternity world, especially, there's people that to be honest, they don't have a clue about a bucking bull, really. They know that they like seeing their name on social media or on TV, and I think that's really cool for us, because we're getting people involved that had never even thought of having a ranch or owning a truck and trailer.
Right.
And and I love that about this industry of anybody can be a part. You just have to call us and get in contact and be a part of it, more or less.
Right. Yeah. And so, from a learning experience for yourself, I guess, has this been kind of a trial and error situation, or I know you mentioned you were more so on the barrel racing side of things and then kind of just fell in love with it, but how has that kind of been a learning experience for you?
My brother has always had youth fraternity calves, and the first couple of times I don't really get nervous. And the first couple of times I went to a fraternity, and they have a women's fraternity, and I entered, and I was beyond nervous. I was thinking back there, like, okay, how am I supposed to flank my bull? I don't remember, like, texting my grandpa sitting across the pan and be like, how much flank did you say to put in? And he's like, you'll be fine. I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm so nervous. In 2019 I did win the world, and I feel like I should have been really nervous at the World Finals, and I felt like I had been enough. I knew my bull. There was no need to even be nervous, and it all worked out at the finals to my advantage. It did, but there, as far as like learning about these bulls, and that's what I find fascinating. Not every bull is the same. So some take more flank, some take less, some have to be a certain way in the chute. And so getting to learn how to handle these calves is such a fun experience for me, just because, I have to figure out, obviously it'd be a lot easier if they could just talk to us.
Right.
But figuring out what suits them best for them to be successful. And, it's like I keep referring to the barrel horse deal, but there has been places where I won't take a certain horse because I think the ring doesn't fit him, or the style of his running style doesn't really fit the ground, and we play a lot into that with the bulls. There are some places that the arena's set a little different, and we don't think one bull would do well there or one would, and so there's a lot of and kind of like you said, it's a learning experience. I learn something from these bulls every day, and they've got the biggest personalities, and you really have to pay attention. And we're with them out here, every single day. So I get to see these bulls grow and mature into what they are now, which is so cool for me just to watch them. I have to step back every now and then and just be like, wow, like I get to do this every day. This is such a blessing, and just see like these bulls grow. And sometimes like I have to think, wow, like he really matured in 6 weeks, and you have to step back and like, okay, now I got to reevaluate that certain bull for him to keep being successful.
Well, right. I mean, they're athletes, really. I mean, I'm sure you're always tweaking things and making adjustments, and the fact that you guys are able to be so hands-on with them probably helps that a little bit, because you kind of know, oh, hey, they're off today or whatever it may be. But yeah, I mean, they're a different breed of athletes for sure.
Yeah.
But that's really what they are at the end of the day.
For sure. And like I said, we have a great vet. Her name's Dallas, and she has been a godsend. If something looks wrong, we can call her, send her a video or a picture, and she is so good about being like, hey, let's try this, this, and this, and go from there. And, she knows the bulls about as well as we do. And I never thought, like, a lot of people don't realize that we go to the vet and we get them injected and that kind of thing. But I never realized how much a good vet plays into your program. I know that sounds crazy, but when you step back and think, wow, like she started working for us, or not necessarily work, but being our vet, and wow, look what it's turned into. She really took our program to the next level because of her work, and it was never anything like very major she had to do, but there was a lot of smaller things that we tweaked that she knew that we were like, oh yeah, well that makes sense.
Well, yeah, and I'm sure the team of people behind everything too. I mean, this is putting a lot of time and money and energy into it, so you want to make sure everything's.
Well, and just from our feed guys to our supplement people, our vet, just the people that come and collect the bulls, it's such a neat experience just as a whole for the bullet, each bull itself. Like Woo-Paw, the man that owns him, he's Mr. Larry. He lives in New Mexico, and he's part of him. That bull has a whole fan club. And the same way with Top. I get messages all the time of I love Top Dollar or I love Woo-Paw so much. I'm like, oh, me too. I love him too. But and I get messages of we've watched Woo-Paw all year long. At the finals with him and Jose, that was the coolest ride I've ever seen. And I'm like, man, like for me, it's such a neat deal. A couple of months ago, we went to an event, and we pull in to unload, and this little boy that's probably 9, he comes running to the truck, and let me rolls the window down, and he said, did you guys bring Woo-Paw? And that just made my heart, like, I was like, oh my goodness, and we said, no, we didn't get to bring him. He was so sad. I was like, I told Larry, I said, golly, we're going to have to start taking Woo-Paw everywhere we go, because people, they just love that bull. And the same way, like I said, with Top Dollar. But it's almost fulfilling for us as, we're doing our job promoting these bulls and showing them where people get excited to see them. I'm like a little kid too. I get so excited just watching them.
Well, and it's I think testimony to you guys as well that you're doing it correctly, and you're trying to educate and promote your business and your bulls and all of that as well in a proper fashion, I think too.
Yes, and that was Laramie and I's main goal, was to show people that, we're not making these bulls buck. They're bred to do this.
Right.
And showing that we're not hurting them. They live an easy life. Top Dollar, today he stood at a round bell and laid out in the pen. He has a pretty rough life.
Right.
So, it's so neat. The way that these bulls, get to perform on such a level. This weekend, we'll probably be in the short round at Fort Worth at the PBR. And I made a post on Facebook about, who do you think is going to pick him in the short round? And so many people have commented and messaged and think, hey, we think this one's going to pick him. And just for us, we're like, man, like that's exciting that somebody else is excited to see him too. Because like at the finals, I didn't even go down on the floor. I actually sat with Courtney in the stands and watched it just like a fan, any other fan. And to see everybody be so excited, not only for Whoopah, but for Jose as well to win the world on him, it was such a cool moment because everybody in that building was excited. And, you know, we all just, I was in tears. Like, I couldn't believe, you know, that I'd never seen a bull ride like that in my life. And so to know that, you know, I had a hand in that, you know, I don't flank Whoopah, but, you know, I feed and do whatever and take care of him. So that was such a neat opportunity just to be a part of, you know, and I hope that for more people to realize that, like, you can be a part of this too. Like, all you got to do is call me and I will get you hooked up.
Yeah, just the fact that you got, I'm like you said, I mean, it's such a probably emotional experience for you to know that you had a big part of that success, and then to be able to see that success not only for that moment in time, but know that you have other ones that are hopefully going to follow in that same limelight as well.
Yes, you know, like I said, in 2019 when I won the world, it came down to at the finals, whoever, you know, was more than this. I think there was 0.12 between me and second, and I didn't even try to do the math. I was trying not to even think about it. And when it all settled, you know, all said and done, I did win it. And that was probably the coolest thing. That was the bull that my grandpa had raised. He had raised his mom and his dad as well. So that was a homegrown bull. I helped put the first trip on him, and to see him, you know, go on and be successful as a homegrown, home-raised kind of bull. And then obviously my first world title was something that I completely fell in love even more with it at that moment, you know. And then, like with Top Dollar, we raised him, and then Whoopah, Mr. Larry raised him. So he's really special. That bull is he'll probably never leave the house. Mr. Larry had a really good friend that his name was JP, and he lost him of cancer. And JP always used to holler Whoopah. So when he passed away, they wanted to name the bull Whoopah, and they'd been waiting on a good one. And Whoopah had turned out to be pretty good. And then, you know, the whole story is, you know, his kind of name says itself. But he was one that, you know, we were determined to make him win the world. Like, that was the goal. And with a cool story like that on a bull, that makes it even more special, you know. The three bulls that we've won the world with in the last few years have just been they each had their own little story, which was so cool to me. I'm kind of like that. I like that kind of stuff. You know, so from home raised bulls to bulls that, you know, had their names had a meaning, which was super cool, and everybody kind of knows about the Whoopah deal, and it's such a cool thing to be a part of, you know. Like, sometimes I have to, like, step back, like I said, and just kind of be like, wow, like, this is so cool that I just get to, you know, get in the win picture.
Right, yeah. Well, I love that, too. I love that there's stories, because I think it just makes it that much more special. And obviously you guys have had successes there, but I kind of want to talk to you about your success recently as well. You were recently named 30 under 30 for the Cowgirl magazine, so congratulations on that.
Thank you.
But let's talk about that a little bit. So how did all that kind of happen, and what does that become of now that you're a part of that 2021 class?
So they put out on social media about applying. Well, I kind of joked around, like, oh, I think I might do it, and then I talked myself completely out of it. Like, I'm not going to do it, whatever. Well, I think it was 2 days before the deadline. I was like, okay, I'm not going to do it, whatever. Well, a friend of mine that I went to college with, we were in Tulsa for the PBR, and she got some pictures of, I had my Fancy Lady Cowgirl stuff on. Well, she took some pictures of me in it. And she was like, hey, put your hat and your shirt back on. Let's just take some pictures. Well, she emailed them to me and was like, apply for 30 under 30 or I'm doing it for you. Like, oh, okay. Well, I applied, and funny story, I was at a bull sale, and a couple of my friends had gotten their response letters. Well, I hadn't gotten mine when I got home, and I was freaking out. I was like, okay, I didn't get it. It's okay. Whatever, you know, like, it's fine. I was, like, completely prepared. Well, I sent an email, and they said, oh, my gosh, yours must have got lost in the mail. Congratulations, you were one of the 30 under 30. So I was like, oh, my gosh, this is crazy that, my letter had got lost.
Right.
Like, okay, I've already taught myself out of it once, now whatever. Well, the letter ended up getting there. So it was such a neat honor. And really what I did it for was to be able to promote the buck and bull industry. And that was really my main goal behind wanting hoping to get selected, was to be able to show people, hey, like, this is what we do. I'm not your typical, influencer or, just a barrel racer, but we have a whole different story. And I think sometimes people, they don't really understand what we do, which is totally fine. But sometimes if you will just, look into what we do, it's such a neat business. And, the 30 under 30, I really was excited just to be selected, because that gives another avenue just to promote what we do. And the bulls, essentially, we kind of joke about, we sell the bulls to the people, trying to get them to be like, oh, we're going to follow this certain bull all the way through his life. And then the next thing you know, they're buying bulls.
Right. Yeah. How cool, though. I mean, what an honor. And there's a lot of really tough women on that list. So I'm honored to be talking to somebody on the list.
Well, thank you. I've been super excited about the whole deal. I college rodeoed with Emily Miller, and she got it. So I know a couple of the girls. I really don't know a lot of them. So I'm super excited. We actually have they call it the Spring Fling. It's one of the biggest fraternities all year, is in Abilene, Texas, that same weekend. So we're going from Thursday and Friday of next week to the event. Our Bulls Bucks Friday. There's an event Friday night. So Courtney's driving to Abilene to watch Top Dollar. We're leaving Abilene, trying to drive back to get to the event Friday night, and then Saturday will be the actual presentation and all of that kind of stuff at Northside. So it's going to be a hectic, kind of crazy next weekend, but I wouldn't change it. I'm beyond thankful for the opportunity.
Yeah, well, that sounds like a blast, and I hope you guys have fun and soak it up.
Oh, definitely. We're hoping that we win something and we do well. So it's such a neat deal, and I actually talked to Courtney earlier, and I was like, I don't know how we're going to do all this. I am nervous. I don't want to miss anything. I was like, I'm the type of person, I hate missing out. So I was like, we're going to figure it. She's like, don't worry. I'll come get you. We're going to make it all work. I'm like, okay, you're prepared to drive a lot.
Figure it out, right?
Right.
Drive through the night if you got it.
Yeah, so it's such a neat lifestyle. I know there's a lot of people that ranch and do things, and we don't, really technically, I don't feel like we are real ranching kind of people, but the buck and bulls are such a different breed of animals. It's like almost like raising deer sometimes, because some of them are pretty wild and they're kind of all over the place, but we definitely get a big enjoyment of seeing these bulls, end up on TV or something like that.
Yeah, and I mean, you just kind of mentioned they're a breed of their own and kind of in their own world, which I would tend to agree with. But also, on the flip side of that, there's not a ton of women involved in it, I'd say, and I know we've kind of touched on that a little bit. So what is it like kind of being a woman paving the way in the industry?
It's such an awesome thing. There's been some women before me that I completely look up to, the Leanne Hart, Tiffany Davis, some of those girls that are women that are just phenomenal. And, I can call right now and be like, hey, like, what do you think about this? And, they are just as knowledgeable as any man. And I have to really give them a lot of credit because, I look up to them as just, leaders of, hey, like, this is what I'm thinking. What do you think about this? And when I won the world in 2019, Leanne was the first one to hug me and tell me congratulations and, like, so proud of you. You deserve this. And, coming from her, like, wow, like, thank you so much. In 2019 or 18, I went to some events, and I didn't go a whole. I started in June, so I didn't go a whole lot. So in 2019, my uncle Cord McCoy, his wife, my aunt Sarah, she was pregnant, And so Cord would send me with a truck and trailer and a load of bulls to go help him, and I would go, and I was on the back of the buck and shoots. This is grown men, and
right.
and I in more a little more in 2018, I guess. These years kind of all run together at this point, but I was back there with grown men flanking big bulls, and never once have I ever felt like I didn't belong back there. Anything I needed, there was men back there. Hey, you need me to help you do this or this? Yes, thank you so much. Because I'm not a very big girl, so I can't really put my leg over the buck and shoot and push a bull over. So it's always nice to have a man there to be like, hey, I can help you. But it's such a neat deal. Like I said, I never once felt like I didn't belong. And I think that's one of the cool things about this industry was everybody was so welcoming, and nobody ever thought you don't belong here. And being a woman, obviously, there's not a lot of us. So sometimes when you go places, people are like, oh, whoa, a girl. And now it's getting more normal. There's more and more girls that are doing this, which I think is super cool. I'm all for that. And, I get excited when somebody is like, hey, like, I want a women's Futurity calf. I'm like, awesome. Like, this is what I love. I love that. We do everything with them. And to be a part of that is super cool, for somebody to want to learn. And I keep telling Corey, I'm like, you're gonna have to flank your bull sometime. Like, we're gonna get you a women's calf, and you're gonna have to flank him. And it's such a blast. And during the women's Futurity, it's only women on the back of the buck and shoot. So there's two men that put the dummies on, but they don't help you. They don't flank your bull for you. You do it yourself. So I think that's, like, the super cool part of it is, like, we get to do it all on our own and show that, like, hey, like, look, we're not – it's not just a man's sport anymore.
Yeah, and, how cool, obviously, that you guys are involved in it, but then to show other women that you can do it too, you know what I mean? You don't have to be a guy to be involved in this type of industry or do it. Like, you can do it on your own. You can succeed at it.
Yeah, and that's what's so much fun about it, like – and to be in the women's Futurity, it doesn't say, like, you have to live here and you have to feed it every day. Like, that's not the case, If you just want to come and flank your bull, awesome. I can help you do it. I'll teach you how to flank. It's not hard, and it's such a fun opportunity. And it's a little more, I don't want to say it's a little more laid back because we're pretty competitive, but it's maybe not as much pressure as, like, being in the open Futurity. Sometimes you can get a little starstruck about, like, oh, my goodness, I'm on the back of the buck and shoots. We're, at a PBR. I'm like, oh, my goodness.
Yeah.
I get a little nervous. I'm not going to lie at those. But the Futurities, they're pretty laid back. And I think that's what's super cool about it is, you never have to worry at those women's deals. Like, if you need help, I will be the first one to help you, And that's what's super cool because my first couple of events, there were some women that kind of took me under their wing, like, hey, we'll help you. You need anything, we'll help you. And I think that's super cool. And so now, being that I've been in it a few years, just in the women's Futurity itself a few years, that if somebody needs help, like, I'm the first one to be like, hey, like, I'll help you. I'll do anything you need. You just tell me what you need, and I'll help you.
Well, I think that's such a cool thing about the agriculture or livestock industry as a whole. I feel like overall people are pretty supportive, but I think this whole, like, women's movement and all of it too is just, like, the support in it is even more so, I think. Like, women supporting women and women wanting to see other women succeed is such a cool thing. And the fact that it's, like, you could be, it just blows my mind away sometimes that, women involved in the bucking bull industry and, like, supporting each other within that facet or whatever it may be. But at the end of the day, I think just knowing that you can do it and that there's going to be someone there to help you along the way too.
For sure. Like I said, coming from a barrel horse background, not dogging on my barrel horse friends, but they're not notorious to be the most friendly.
Right.
I'm probably going to catch a lot of stuff over that, but, they're not the most friendly. I'll just go ahead and say it. And with the buck and bull, that's been something that I've really loved. As a whole, the people have been super supportive. And, if you're new to this, and, I'll be the first one to help anybody. My phone number's out on social media. Message me, Instagram, Facebook. There's everything you can imagine. I'm on it. Call me, text me, whatever. Let me know what you need. If you need a bull, I probably got one. If you just want to learn how to flank, come to my house. I got bulls. There's everywhere. And I think a lot of people, I don't want to say that they think I'm no celebrity and I'm not better than anybody, but sometimes people think that people are maybe untouchable, uncontactable.
Yeah.
And I don't ever want to be that way. If you got a question about a bull, me, Laramie, my Uncle Cor, my Grandpa Denny, anybody, they'll be the first ones to call and have, call and let you know what they think. Laramie gets videos sometimes of people hey, what do you think about this bull? And we're just dead honest with you,
Yep.
So I think that's a cool thing because you don't find that a lot in other industries of, hey, what do you think about this bull or what do you think about this horse? Sometimes people aren't always honest with you. Yep. And in the buck and bull world, I think that's something that's super cool is people are willing to help you. We call other contractors and bounce ideas off or, something like that, which sometimes you're just a fresh set of eyes, oh, well, I didn't even think of that. Okay, well, that makes sense, So I think that's another thing that's really neat, and I'm really proud to be a part of an industry like that.
And I think that honesty and transparency really goes a long way from a business standpoint as well.
For sure. We've got some partners, and I love them dearly. They're from Wisconsin, and they've got 4 bulls with us. And we can text and say, hey, we're going to enter this. What do you think? And they say, we completely trust you. You do what you think. And that makes our job easy because, okay, we know, we just want to touch base with you, and they're great people of, oh, sure, whatever you want to do, what's going on, make the decision. So that's super cool because they trust us and in our judgment of this is where this bull needs to go. He needs to be entered here, here, and here. Okay, sounds great. So that kind of stuff, we appreciate that as far as just bull. I don't even really know what the word is, but just the I just totally went mind blank. I'll think of it in a minute. But we've got partners. Dustin Denning in North Carolina. He's got 3 bulls here with us right now. Mark and Sarah Underwood, like I said, from Wisconsin. We've got partners from everywhere. And I think that's such a fun deal because, it's not like people are just local right around here. Dustin, I don't think he's ever even been to our place. I've met Dustin one time. And, we've had a bull for him since May of last year. And so I think that's super cool, that he trusts us to have this bull and not to be oh, I don't know, where my bull is. He just is oh, I trust you guys. Take care of him. Let me know what I need to do. So, that makes us feel good, just on our part.
Yeah, absolutely. And helps them from a safe investment standpoint, and then you guys to be the go-tos when it comes to that kind of stuff as well.
Yes. Courtney jokes about whenever I sent her an Instagram message one day about hey, what do you think about partnering on a bull? It's pretty much what the message said. And she was and she jokes about it now. She was I knew she sent this to the wrong person. I was oh my goodness. So she said, I vetted you guys. I called everybody in the buck and bull world I knew. Was what about this Laramie and Katie? And so, we joke about it now of we had a good enough reputation of people to be yes, you need to do this. You need to partner on this bull. So that made, it was super cool for us, because she easily could have said no and not even replied. But, at the end of the day, I had already been told no that day. So it wasn't going to hurt my feelings if she told me no. But when she said yes, that was probably the most exciting thing for us is, we were on social media before Courtney, but she has really grown. We've sold to 3 different people just because of her. And 3 new people in the bull business that's good for the bull business as a whole.
Exactly.
And so we were super excited because Courtney really elevated it and was teaching people. And that's what I told her. I said, I really want people to learn about this. I don't want to just be oh, yeah, Courtney owns part of Top Dollar. I wanted her to really teach people, this is how we take care of them. This is how we do this. And in the process, we're not making them buck. And it's just a really streamlined, easy process for us and the bulls.
And that was going to be kind of my last question before we get into the rapid fire stuff was how social media has kind of grown your exposure and allowed you to kind of have those opportunities.
Yeah, it really has. And I asked people, like, how did you find us? Like, we have zero mutual friends.
Yes.
That always like, yeah, and they go, oh, well, Courtney, we went to an event in Cedar Park, Texas, and we met this girl, and she owned the sale barn. And she said, oh, well, you guys are partnered with Courtney on Top Dollar. We're like, how in the world? Like, yeah, we are. Yeah, and people all the time like, oh, you guys, yeah, you're with Courtney. I'm like, yeah, well, we're with Courtney, yep. And it's such a neat deal because people have no clue really about the bull business that will send us messages and like, oh, we're so excited, and they keep up and they follow these bulls. And it's all because of, we post about them on social media, and they know their names, and like they really watch these bulls each week. And I find that so fascinating because I'm obsessed with them, if you can't tell. And it's such a neat opportunity because these people that might not be able to afford to be in the bull business, through social media, they can still follow them. And I want people to, like, I know sometimes it seems crazy, but us videoing out here feeding the bulls or taking care of them, some people are like, why in the world would you post that? I'm like, well, because people want to see the us going out there, me being able to, while Wet Willie's laying down, I can sit on him and scratch him, or go in there and pet Top Dollar. They want to see that kind of stuff and not know that all that bull does is buck. He's a pet pretty much. And I want more people to know more of that side of that. They're a bull. They get to live the life. They have it, made, versus somebody thinking that these are tools, if you know what I mean. Like, yeah. I want somebody to think that we do this and we're hard on them, and we're not. This is obviously how we make a living, and so we have to take care of them. And that was the biggest thing on social media. We wanted people to know that this is our livelihood, and we take care of them, they take care of us, kind of deal.
Yeah, and I think that's really kind of, at the end of the day, the message that is a little bit lost is the whole, we take care of them, they take care of us. It's kind of a codependent relationship. So it doesn't benefit anybody to have poor care or treatment, anything like that.
Yeah, people sometimes don't understand, like, what we go through to take care of these bulls. Sometimes we leave 3 or 4 days early. Last year at the Classic Finals in Sioux Falls, it's a ways from Decatur, Texas to Sioux Falls, South Dakota. I think we left 3 days early before the bulls even bucked. And everybody's like, oh, I can't believe you guys are leaving so early. Well, we wanted to get up there, let those bulls lay down, let them rest. Now, Whoopaw, he gets in the trailer and he lays down. We've got him knee-deep in shavings. But most of them bulls will lay down in the trailer, so we don't ever really worry. But we want to get up there and get to whatever event and get them laid down, get them bedded down, and rest.
Yeah.
Whoopaw, he won the first round of the Classic Finals and then was second and then ended up winning the world and the finals average. But we wanted to make sure he was well rested and taken care of, because if we would have just drove to Sioux Falls and bucked him, he might not have been as good. And so, like, it's really a game of, hey, we need to leave, at 6:30 on Thursday to make sure that we make it here on time. And it's really like a kind of a whole game plan of, like, okay, we got to do this, this, and this to make this be successful. And so a lot of people don't ever realize that, like, there's a lot that goes into this versus just, a simple bucking a bull.
Yeah, it's one giant chess game, right?
Every day I'm like, oh, we didn't do this. Like, okay, well, we'll do this, this, and this different, like, it's in, as soon as you think you have a plan, no, it will change. It'll rain, like last week with the whole snowing situation.
Yes, oh my goodness.
I have just been floored. We were blessed to not completely have a train wreck at our house. I think we ended up losing 2 calves. But, you know, I talked to some friends of ours today, and they lost 8. Some other people lost 12, and it just, like, heartbreaking because, you know, we're just not set up for that here.
Yeah,
to be able to put a little bit of that out on social media, we're vulnerable, I mean, as much as anyone, and to know that, like, we did all we could to keep this stuff alive. You know, there's 150 head of cattle here, cows, calves, and hauling bulls, and it was a struggle. I mean, like, I wanted to just, like, cry. There were some days when I just was so worn out from, you know, the electricity was out. We're on a well. We have no water. So the electricity, the rolling blackout situation, you know, we would have electricity for 30 minutes, and we would be trying to water bulls and carry water and break ice. Like, it was terrible. But, you know, it all worked out. But those were some of the things. And Courtney did a great job sharing that story of so many farmers and ranchers. And I'm sure you guys had it tough as well. But we definitely showed another side of the ranching community of, like, we're struggling. We're getting through it. But it was a struggle.
Yeah, well, it's the reality of it all, I think, that you just don't think about. I mean, farming and ranching doesn't stop just because it's cold outside, right?
Yeah, there'd be some days when I would love for, you know, them to feed themselves. That would be so good. And I'm like, golly, if you could just go pour the feed bucket by yourself. Like, I know you know how to get in the feed room.
Self-serve buffet.
Definitely make my job a little easier because, you know, they just stand here, and if you're 5 minutes late, Whoopah turns his trough over. You know, things like that. So they're on a schedule, and they know right then you better have it done and be there to feed. They're waiting on you.
Oh, too funny. Well, Katie, I know you're a busy lady, so we're going to kind of move into the rapid-fire questions here to finish things off.
Mm-hmm.
Also, though, before we do that, I wanted to make sure that we talk about where people can connect with you before I ask you your final question.
Got it. So just Katie Perschbacher on Facebook, as well as Hook and W Ranch, and Hook and W Ranch on Instagram as well. And then my Instagram is just Katie Persch, Persch. And there's Whoopah has its own Facebook page. But that's where we pretty much, there and on Instagram is where we pretty much post all the bull stuff. My Facebook's pretty boring, but the Hook and W page, we try to post all of the bull stuff that we can on there.
Perfect, and I'll make sure to include all of that too for those of you who are listening and want to get in touch with them. And then rapid fire questions. Okay, first one is your favorite candy.
Oh Lord, this is crazy. I'm not really a candy lover, but something sour, that's pretty much my go-to.
All right, that'll work. Are you a morning or night person?
Oh, if I have to be up early, I can do it, but I am not really a morning person, but I'm a go to bed at like 9 o'clock kind of person too. I'm bombing your questions here.
And then the final one is kind of a random but kind of fun one. If you were to buy a yacht, what would you name it?
Oh, Top Dollar.
Perfect. I love it.
Definitely, definitely.
Thank you so much for taking time out of your day and getting to talk to me a little bit about the bull industry and kind of what you guys do. I really appreciate it.
Well, thank you so much. We appreciate it so much.